Hi, this is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes. Of course, you know our website, bluebearflutes.com, our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, oh gosh, Pinterest, and just about anything else you can imagine. You might even find us on Reddit under Blue Bear Flutes. Anyway, as we like to, once in a while, do a question and answer video or maybe read some of our YouTubers' comments that follow us there. I have a handful of them right here for you today. And, you know, these sometimes are really helpful for me because it may be something that you missed. Maybe those of you that subscribe to us didn't get a chance to read this particular comment. And you thought, hey, that's a good video. Maybe I would be interested in watching it. Or maybe, you know, that's a good question. I think I should look into that myself. So likewise, the first comment is from our good friend and longtime subscriber, Rusty Gun 7, on the video, The Native American Flute Playing in Harmony with Nature, 432, 440, and 528 Hertz. And I like this video a lot. I've been wanting to do it for a while because it kind of hits on all of those. I mean, today we had, I don't know how many requests for 432 Hertz tuning from our buyers, basically, people that order flutes from us. And I really want to tell all of them, you know, everything I know about this, but there's just so little time. Anyway, and of course, too, when you look on the web, you can find conspiracy information, you can find this, find that, and how, you know, it's you know, going against the nature, and how this way is disharmonious, and this one is a healing frequency, and this one's supposedly healing, you know, self-proclaimed healing frequency. What's really going on there? Well, with the flute, I will make probably a more in-depth video with regards to that sometime soon, but in this video's case, I just want to touch on something. And Rusty Gun asks, the frequency change can change merely by blowing at different pressures. Do I have this correct? Thanks. And yeah, absolutely. With regards to a wind instrument, you control the flatness and sharpness of this instrument with your breath. I have made other videos about how to play a flute in tune and what have you, and whether it should be or shouldn't be in tune is kind of really up to the player and where you're playing right now. If we were playing in an orchestra somewhere on top of, you know, Mount St. Helens or something, the pressure and the temperature will cause all instruments to play differently, and we have to adapt to fit those needs. Likewise, when it comes to an instrument like this, you can actually control the tone of the flute itself simply by blowing harder or faster, or blowing softer or slower. And you can hear this. Listen very carefully. And there's a half step right there. It's almost a half step flat in tone just based on how you play. So when we tune flutes, we try to tune them with like a median temperature and a median amount of pressure. We try to keep everything consistent so that not only do people get something that they're accustomed to playing in a certain frequency range, but it also stays true to that range based on the person who's playing it. So, you know, it's kind of like my dad used to say, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. And in the case of, you know, the 432, 440, and 528 Hertz, depending on your playing style, you may actually be playing a flute that you bought from anyone that is made to be 432 Hertz. You might be playing it in 528, which is almost a half step away. So the next comment here on our YouTube channel, and some of these are from YouTube and some of them are from questions that I have emails for, and some of them are a number of things. This one's from Old Bones, and it was on the video Making a Native American Flute with Only a Pocket Knife and Natural Materials. Once again, another really great video. It's actually the second one of those that we've made, third if you count the branch flute video. It was really something fun to do, and if you can imagine, it only took us like 20 minutes to do that. That's not too bad. I'm proud of myself. But anyway, and if you haven't seen it, we have another video, Making a Native American Flute in under 5 minutes. That's using a handful of tools. That video, actually, I had so many comments, positive and negative, about it when we made that. I went back and made another video, Making a Native American Flute in under 3 minutes. But I never published that one. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Anyway, Old Bone says, always enjoy your videos. Can one use the invasive bamboo for flutes? It grows everywhere along the tool here. And yes, absolutely. Invasive bamboo I recommend using for flutes highly, and I'll tell you why. Number one, it's very strong. Number two, it's very plentiful, so if you need to experiment a little bit before you get your sea legs on making flutes, it's a great way to get started. It's actually how I got started making flutes, is on that invasive golden bamboo, the Chinese bamboo. And with regards to my favorite reason why you should use that is because you're repurposing something that otherwise causes some people anger and frustration, and you're finding some way to use it that is positive and making both hopefully yourself as well as maybe even some other people happy. So it's a great thing to do. Now this one is from a phone message. As many of you know, we have an 800 number that you can call to get a hold of us to find out information and ask questions and what have you. And this, I believe, is actually from a customer who has sent me repetitively sent me several different questions. And eventually I called them, and they've left me text messages and emails and voicemails and everything, just lots of questions. But this is his question. Now, I haven't reread this one. Let me see here. Charlie Ron Elgin. What's the hertz on the bass B? You said the lowest was the A, and it's around 200 hertz. My ideal, and I don't know if you make something very similar. My daughter plays violin. The lowest string on the violin on Flutopia is on the piano, 3rd octave, a G3. If you make something in the range, I don't know if that should be. What's the difference in the two? I got to get a order in soon. I'm also thinking about using it in the studio like a bass harmonica and layering, and so tonal quality of the gut are important besides the medicinal. Sorry for babbling, give me a holler. Hey, it's almost 4:30 in the morning here, and I might get some sleep. Thanks, man.
Charlie, Ron Elgin, call me tomorrow. I give you a credit card. We'll just do it. I'm putting you first because I need it, and you do it. Here's the thing I don't know. I know tone. You do. I want a gut buster, low end. I don't need to be extreme to the point that it's stupid, but I need the heart of the element, of the abyss of the soul, because that's where I've been, brother. Help me. I believe the gut buster, or in other words, the eradicator of the abyss of the soul, your low A, is going to be very, very cool. Thanks, Charlie. Charlie, Ron Elgin, may have got a problem with the order. Here's the deal. Bob makes a gun-born, and I don't know, it's old school, but I've got a blowpipe from Borneo that's old school. The tone's good. I've seen it before in the same price range, but yet you told me something I didn't know, so I'm guilty. I think I'm going to owe you. The 5-hole versus 6-hole flutes that I've got bugs me. You don't have to call me back if you don't want to. I'm not ashamed, but I think I'm going to have to go the other way. My spirit's not at ease, but made commitment. So my fifth flute will, my piece of history, has the tone I'm paying for. Have total confidence in what you told me, and this ain't my last flute, but I can't backtrack anymore. Compromise killed me in the past.
Well, yeah, anyway, so he left a lot of messages, and a lot of times when I get phone messages too, I read like a transcript of them, which is what this is. Yeah. Anyway, down to the last one here, Lars Hilbot on how to make a 4-hole Native American flute, which is one of my favorite flutes to teach people how to make because most of you know it was the first flute I learned how to make. My granddad taught me how to make. And it is really special to me. I see it as not just a passing of a torch type thing, but something, that one little tiny 4-hole flute or four-hole whistle is a way that other people really can be inspired as I was. So that's what I see. I really like the four-hole flute. Can it be made with a bigger bore, like 3/4 of an inch? So he's talking specifically about the four-hole flute, not the whistle, but they're very much the same. I mean, they're very similar. And yes, actually, you can make the four-hole flute in a larger bore, and 3/4 of an inch is actually what our key of A four-hole flute is made in. And I'll tell you, to be honest with you, most flutes can be made in a four-hole flute version. Now, just initially, most of you out there own either a 5 or 6 hole Native American flute already, I'm sure. A lot of you, maybe you don't, but this is an experiment for when you get one. Cover this top hole up, or in the 6-hole flute's case, cover the top 3 holes so that you only have the bottom, top 2 holes, so that you only have the bottom 4. Actually, hold on. On a modern 6-hole flute, you're going to want to cover up that middle one that you keep covered all the time, and the top hole. So anyway, long story short, you have 4 of the bottom notes of the flute, and watch. That's a minor pentatonic scale. So to use this top hole, that actually is just the octave of the bottom note. That's all covered, but on the higher octave. And many of you have probably discovered if you blow a little fast, you can play that top octave note. So you can do this on almost any Native American flute, which is probably point in case why the old ones decided to make 4-hole flutes way back in the day, because it was just more convenient. You only really need 4 holes in the first place to make a flute play the minor pentatonic scale. In addition to that, with a typical 4-hole flute, which I left mine laying around somewhere on my desk over there, you can actually play the next octave several notes into the next octave with the fingerings. And I'd be willing to bet we can probably do it on this one too. Now this one, of course, wasn't made to play those next notes, and if I were to go back and fine tune a little bit here, it would do that. However, long story short, the reason that most of the smaller diameter flutes were what indigenous peoples originally made in the Americas is because of the size of, like, the mass of air particles and how they flow generally on our planet's surface within a certain temperature and a certain pressure range. Let me explain that. When I blow faster on this flute, which was not created to play that next octave playing those using those 4-hole fingerings, I can produce the fingerings. The bottom note there you heard was a little bit on the flat side, and the next one was just about right, but there was like something missing in between. The reason it's like that is because I made this flute to play all of the other notes very clearly and very rich, I guess is what I'm looking for. With the 4-hole flutes, when it comes to something larger or smaller in size than the original, created ones, you have to make those adjustments because, once again, the old style of making 4-hole flutes, which dates back from about 3,500 years ago on back to at least 8,000 years that we know of in the Americas of making Native American flutes, those flutes that were made during those time periods were all 4-hole flutes, and they were all made specifically to play those notes the way that they played. Now, later on down the road, people got a little more comfortable, didn't have to chase their food to find something to eat, and they started living in communities, and time kind of started building up on us. We had a lot of time on our hands, kind of like today when we watch videos. Anyway, they decided to try making another hole, and then that worked. So they made another hole, and then that worked. And honestly, as I've said in other videos, Native American flutes have been discovered, which had as many as like 14, I think, holes. Maybe one had 17, I think, if I heard right. Different holes that were used for fingerings at different times and placements and what have you. And that is because of experimentation, that people had more time to do. Now, if you were making a wooden flute like they did about 1,700 years ago, say in Wisconsin type area or something, you may stick with a pattern that works better because that pattern is reliable. So you might not experiment with an actual wooden flute, whereas somebody who had river cane nearby, that have just tons of it that, you know, say, hey, look, we can cut a piece down and use this to make several flutes out of, they may do more experimenting, which is how I got here, of course, because once again, I had a big bamboo patch in my yard when I was a kid, and that's when I started experimenting with flutes. But any which way, I hope this has helped you all a lot, and of course, given you a lot to think about with regards to Native American flutes and questions, and, you know, maybe we can get something good out of that phone message. Anyway, I'm not really sure what's going on there. But anyway, or the other 18 messages I have from him. So thank you guys so much again for watching. I appreciate you very much. And Ron, thank you so much, buddy. I hope you're doing well out there, and hope we can figure out what it is that you need one day. And once again, Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out. Y'all take care. Happy flute playing, happy flute making, and thanks so much again for watching our videos.